Most people think monsters live under the bed. I learned the hard way. They live in your own home, wearing your mother's wedding ring. I was 16 when my father remarried. He was lonely after my mom passed, so when Elaine swept into his life with her soft voice and perfect smile, he clung to her like a lifeline. To outsiders, she looked like a blessing, but to me, she was a shadow that grew darker every year until it swallowed everything I loved. Elaine didn't hate me, not at first. She barely acknowledged me at all. What she wanted wasn't a family. What she wanted was money, power, and control, and she was willing to bury anyone who stood in her way. It started small. I overheard arguments between her and my dad late at night. She wanted access to his accounts. He told her she had to wait. The trust took time. She didn't like waiting. One day I walked into his study and caught her at his desk, rifling through paperwork. She froze when she saw me, then smiled like nothing happened. "Looking for a pen," she said. But the drawer she had open was where Dad kept life insurance documents. I didn't believe her. Soon after, Dad got sick. Not a normal sick, something strange. He lost weight, complained of stomach pain, and spent nights doubled over. Elaine insisted on taking care of him herself. She guarded his food, his medicine, even his doctor visits. When I asked what the doctor said, she brushed me off. "Don't worry your little head," she'd say. "Your father's in good hands." But I wasn't convinced. The night I knew for sure, I came home from school to find Dad half-conscious on the couch, his lips pale, his hands shaking. Elaine was standing over him, whispering, "Shh, it'll all be over soon." When she saw me, her face transformed. "Oh, thank God you're here." "Your father fainted. Call an ambulance." By the time paramedics arrived, she was crying, clutching his hand like the perfect wife. They rushed him to the hospital. Dad never came home. He died 2 weeks later. The doctors called it organ failure. Elaine called it tragic but inevitable. But I called it murder. I knew she'd done something, but I had no proof. No one would believe a grieving teenager accusing her stepmother of poisoning her father. At the funeral, Elaine put on the performance of a lifetime. Tears, trembling voice, the widow in black. She even hugged me for the cameras, whispering in my ear, "He's gone, and you're next." I tried to tell my relatives what I suspected. They told me grief was making me paranoid. But grief doesn't explain what I found 3 weeks later. While Elaine was out, I searched her closet. Behind her shoes was a metal box. Inside, documents, insurance papers. My father's will, rewritten. Bank statements with money missing. And at the bottom, photographs. Pictures of a man I didn't know. In every photo, Elaine was smiling, her arm around him like he was the love of her life. She wasn't just my father's widow. She was living a double life. I started digging. The man in the photos was real. His name was Mark. He had a criminal record, fraud, embezzlement, even suspected identity theft. And he lived just one town over. It all clicked. Elaine hadn't just wanted my father dead. She wanted his money, and she wasn't working alone. I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I went to the police with what I found. At first, they dismissed me, just a teenager with a wild theory. But when they ran a background check, they found something shocking. Elaine was still married, to Mark. My father had been her second husband. She'd committed bigamy, and now he was dead with millions in insurance money on the line. The police started surveillance. They bugged her phone, tracked her movements, and that's when the truth came out. Elaine and Mark weren't just after my dad's money. They'd done this before. At least 2 other men had died mysteriously after marrying her. Payouts, sudden illnesses, grieving widow act. Then she'd vanish and start again. My father was her 3rd victim. The night they arrested her, I was there. Cops stormed the house while she was on the phone with Mark. She didn't fight, didn't cry. She just looked at me cold and expressionless and said, "You should have stayed quiet." The trial was a circus. Evidence piled up. Financial records, forged wills, toxicology reports finally revealing traces of poison. Witnesses testified about Elaine and Mark's schemes, their luxury trips, their hidden bank accounts. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. Elaine was sentenced to life without parole. Mark got 25 years. But here's what haunts me. Elaine didn't just kill for money, She killed because she liked control. She liked watching people trust her, then slowly pulling the ground from under them. Even in prison, she still finds ways to write me. Letters slip through the cracks. Always the same phrase at the end: families are forever. If this story left you questioning the people closest to you, imagine how many more masks are out there waiting to be torn off. Subscribe and step into the shadows with me. Because sometimes the people we trust most are the ones digging our graves.